April 6, 1453. The first thunder of Ottoman cannon rolls across the fields outside Constantinople, and the city answers with silence, because it has answered for 1,000 years. Inside the walls, roughly 7,000 defenders pace stone battlements built to outlast empires. Outside, Sultan Mehmed II, only 21 years old, tightens a ring of iron around the last great capital of Byzantium, with an army estimates place around 80,000 to 100,000. The Theodosian Walls rise like a cliff, triple-layered and legendary. But even legends can crack under new physics. Bronze barrels, black powder, and bombards that turn masonry into dust. The city's churches hold prayers, the harbor holds breath, and every hour asks the same question: how long can 7,000 men protect a world? Because if Constantinople falls, it won't just be a city lost, it will be a century ending. Constantinople had survived sieges by Persians, Arabs, Rus, and Bulgars. It had even endured the catastrophe of 1204, when crusaders stormed and plundered it. Yet the city still lived on as an imperial idea. By 1453, that idea is starving. The empire beyond the walls is a shadow, broken into fragments, surrounded by Ottoman territory, surviving more on prestige than manpower. Emperor Constantine XI Palaiologos commands what he can: a small corps of Byzantine troops, armed citizens, and a crucial contingent of Latin allies. Among them is Giustiniani, a Genoese commander who brings hundreds of hardened soldiers and takes responsibility for the most dangerous sector, the battered land walls. Mehmed arrives prepared. His siege is not just numbers, it is systems. He seals the city by land, and he tests it by sea. The defenders stretch a massive chain across the mouth of the Golden Horn to block Ottoman ships from entering the harbor. For a moment, the chain works. Then Mehmed responds with the kind of audacity that wins empires. He has ships hauled overland and launched into the Golden Horn, bypassing the barrier and opening a second front behind the defenses. Overnight, a harbor that felt safe becomes another wall to man, another set of eyes to divide, another place to fail. The bombardment never stops. Ottoman artillery, over 100 guns of different sizes in many accounts, pounds the Theodosian Walls day after day. The most famous pieces include the giant bombards associated with the founder Orban, weapons so large they become characters in the siege, slow to load, terrifying to hear, and relentless in purpose. Each shot is not just damage, it is a message. The medieval world built walls to stop ladders, rams, and towers. Mehmed is proving that a new age can punch holes in stone itself. The defenders answer with repair. When sections of wall collapse, they fill gaps with earth, rubble, timber, and whatever the city can spare. They work at night under torchlight, racing time, because time is now Mehmed's ally. Every day the attackers learn the weak points. Every day the defenders lose strength they cannot replace. Estimates vary, but against tens of thousands, 7,000 defenders is not a garrison, it is an emergency. The first major assaults come as tests meant to exhaust the city. Waves of attackers surge toward the breaches, forcing the defenders to spend their arrows, their energy, their courage. Giustiniani's sector becomes a furnace of constant pressure. On the sea walls, ships trade fire with ships. In the harbor, the chain that once symbolized safety becomes a reminder of how quickly a single advantage can be outmaneuvered. By late May, the siege has run for roughly 53 days. Constantinople is running out of food. Morale is stretched thin by fatigue and by the knowledge that relief is not coming in time. The city's defenders are no longer imagining victory. They are imagining one more day. On the night before the final assault, Mehmed prepares with ritual and logistics. He brings up ladders, concentrates troops, and positions his elite Janissaries for the decisive push. This is not only a military plan, it is a psychological one. The defenders must hold every threatened point at once, but the attackers can choose where to concentrate, where to feint, where to strike until a single seam splits. At dawn on May 29, 1453, the last assault begins. The first waves hit hard, driving the defenders into the same terrible cycle. Repel, repair, repel again. Dust and smoke hang over the battlements. The defenders' arms tremble from hours of fighting and hauling stones. Then the pressure increases. Janissaries advance, disciplined, relentless, climbing into the chaos where the wall is weakest. Somewhere amid the confusion, a critical failure occurs. Accounts differ on the exact mechanics. Some later stories mention a small postern gate, the Kirkoporta, left open or compromised, while others emphasize the cumulative effect of breaches and exhaustion. But the result is the same. Ottoman forces get inside the defenses, and once the enemy is within the walls, the geometry of the siege changes instantly. The defenders are no longer holding a line. They are trying to hold a city. A turning point strikes morale like a hammer. Giustiniani is wounded and withdraws from the front. In a siege where 7,000 men are already overstretched, losing a key commander at the critical moment is more than a casualty. It is a collapse of coordination. Defenders who trusted his sector as an anchor now see gaps where there can be no gaps. Panic does not need to be universal. It only needs to spread faster than orders can travel. Emperor Constantine XI stays. He is the last Byzantine emperor, and his fate becomes fused with the city's fate. As Ottoman troops pour through, resistance fractures into desperate pockets. The city that stood for 1,000 years is not erased in an hour, but the decision is made in an hour, because once the walls are compromised, the defenders cannot put the empire back outside. By midday, Constantinople has fallen. The consequences echo far beyond the streets. The city becomes the Ottoman capital, and the balance of power in the eastern Mediterranean shifts. Trade routes, diplomacy, and warfare reorganize around a new center. In European memory, the fall becomes a symbol of the end of an era, of medieval fortifications giving way to gunpowder, of Byzantium finally extinguished, of a frontier moving westward. The siege of 1453 is not only the story of 7,000 defenders losing a city, it is the story of a world discovering that invincible is a temporary word. And that is the sharpest irony. Constantinople did not fall because its walls were weak. It fell because the world around the walls had changed. And on May 29, 1453, the future arrived on the back of cannon smoke. The city that stood for 1,000 years didn't just lose a battle, it lost the century.